Hi everyone, welcome to this Dynamics Migration Program live event. Microsoft has a lot of focus and energy towards the migration program. Dynamics Migration Program, also called as DMP, was created to help existing AX customers upgrade or migrate to Dynamics 365. Many of the AX customers were interested at the innovations that are happening at the cloud, but did not know the starting point to the cloud journey. To facilitate these customers' decision to move to cloud, Microsoft has invested in the Dynamics Migration Program. As part of the Migration Dynamics Program, Microsoft has been working along with partners and has delivered a number of standard and advanced migration assessment. We are here to give you some details about the steps that would occur after the Dynamics Migration Assessment. Please feel free to enter your comments in the QA section and our moderators will help you answer the questions as we go. And also the recordings for this session will be available in the community web page so that you can review it later. I am Arun Kumar, a dynamic solution architect from the customer success team, and along with me is Chad. Chad, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Chad Sogi. I'm a Dynamics 365 architect, and we're happy that you joined us today for this session. In today's session, our agenda is pretty clear cut. As Arun said, we're going to talk about defining the SMA, so the standard migration assessment. We'll talk about what the program is. But more importantly, we're going to focus on some of the next steps post-SMA and why migrate and make a plan is so important to your business and what you need to do or what you should be doing as you look forward for your organization. So without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll start into defining the standard migration assessment. So the standard migration assessment has four main components to it. You see listed on the left-hand side of this chart. There is the business reorganization or restructure. There's database size and quality, customizations and new functionality, and ISV solutions and integrations with third-party applications. Now, I'm not going to go through each of these bullet points, but I did want to highlight a few of the areas we've seen be most important as you look at this process and you walk through this process with your partner. At the very beginning is the business process change or reengineering. So implementing workflows. This is part of the key to removing customizations you may have had in the past and looking at what is out of the box with Dynamics 365 so that you can use that in a more proactive way and reduce some of your dependencies on your own code customizations. When it comes to database size and quality, there are choices to make. Certainly the quality of the data is inherent to what you need to do in order to bring it forward and to make it work really well with Dynamics 365. But historical data offers two opportunities. You can either purge that data or through the migration tools in this process, you can move that data into Azure Data Lake, a very inexpensive way to store a massive amount of data, and thus then having the ability to create reports, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and utilize that historical data without slowing down or putting that against your central database. In terms of customization, I mentioned this before, but this is a point that we can't emphasize enough. Really evaluate with your partner what is the new functionality that's available in Dynamics 365 and what's coming in the next version to decide if you really do need that code customizations you may have had in the past. And if you must, on the right-hand side, if you must continue with code customization, make sure that it's implemented in the new standard version and standard framework that then enables you to upgrade Dynamics 365 on a regular cadence as Microsoft is releasing 2 times a year with those solutions. And then on the bottom section, some of the new functionality may replace your existing ISV solutions. And even if it doesn't, there are new and enhanced ways for integration technology that you're going to want to take a look at. So that covers a little bit of what the focus area should be for SMA migrations, but what are the processes and the steps? This next slide talks about the 4 key steps to the SMA process. The first is that kickoff and business introduction, getting to know what your business needs, what your ultimate goals are, and really looking at how we can make that happen. The second is to dive a little deeper, look at the functional and technical assessments. Review the state of the current solution findings. How many code customizations are there? What new functionality may be inherent in Dynamics 365 that can remove those? Then, through a deep analysis of that, we will review the findings, processes, go into planning, vision, and identify risks as you make the move off of the on-prem solution to Dynamics 365. Obviously, there'd be some question and answers around that upgrade methodology and a high-level estimation for the migration project. And then finally, the presentation that does talk about all of the next steps and finalize and distribute the upgrade assessment overview. So it's those four, I'll say, simple steps that really lead to a successful migration as you look forward on this. What does the journey look like, and how can you help drive that journey as you look at moving to the cloud and moving to Dynamics 365? There are several tools, and I believe this deck will be shared. You can see there's hyperlinks here into the first one, which is realizing the value. And we've broken this down by user size. So as you fit into different user size with your organization, you could see very clearly some of the business value insights that a company of your size has realized and or you may have realized. You're also going to want to look at some of the costs that come along with this. And this is where it's going to be important to work with your reseller in order to look at the licensing, understand what the changes would be, and move forward in that. Then plan the implementation. Again, critical that you choose the right partner here, someone who's done this before, but walk through those 4 steps we just talked about and plan what you're going to do and how you're going to phase the implementation as you make this journey. And once you are live, what are you going to do to leverage the post-sales support? One of the great things I'd point out here is the Dynamics 365 migration community. This is where members like you have joined, have gone through this process, or maybe on the middle of the journey, or maybe you're the expert that's going to share the information. But having that community of other like businesses that have gone through the experience has shown to have tremendous value to our other clients that are going through this. So I would encourage you to join that community. You can see some of the values down there. And of course, if you have any questions, we have the alias DMP-SMA at Microsoft for you to reach out and ask more questions as you go forward. So that's what the program is. These are some of the steps in the program and identifying your journey. And now I'll turn it back to Arun to go into some of the details that we've learned in some of the post-migration work.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. As Chad mentioned, SMA, the standard migration assessment, is just the beginning to the cloud journey. In the next slide, we will talk about the steps that will be involved after the standard migration assessment. What happens after the standard migration assessment? The process is not very different than a regular implementation, but we have a massive advantage here because we are not starting fresh. Rather, we are starting from the strong foundation that we have built over the years on the existing environments of AX, be it AX 2009 or 2012. A migration project can be divided into 3 different sections: analyze, execute, and validate. Let's look into the analyze phase of the project. The SMA process, the standard migration assessment, is part of the analyze phase of the project. The SMA report gives an overall estimate to lift and shift the existing code base to D365. How are these estimates arrived? The SMA team runs through a series of workshops and collects the AX model store from the customer. The collected model store is then run through an estimate tool in LCS. Using the output from the LCS tool, the team will produce the estimates that is being represented in the report. The estimates provided in the SMA gives a good starting point, but there are other areas in the code that needs analysis. Example, integration and reports can be a few topics that needs more in-depth analysis. D365 comes with a lot of features, which can be net new features or improvement over the existing AX 2012 features. It is always a good practice to stay standard as much as possible. We recommend a full fit gap analysis to be conducted on the existing solutions to identify the areas that could be moved to standard. There could also be new features introduced in D365, which could have been customized in AX 2012. This is a great opportunity to identify those areas and move to standard. Many of the ISVs in AX 2012 have also been upgraded to D365. So analyze your existing ISVs in AX 2012 and find an upgraded version of them in D365. Once you have all this information, you can actually go ahead and create the project plan for the upgrade. The standard migration assessment gives a possibility of 3 outcomes. Number 1 is lift and shift. Number 2 is hybrid. And the number 3 is re-implementation. For most of AX 2012 customers, we would recommend a hybrid approach, which includes lift and shift of the code and then rework on the integrations and SSRS reports. For AX 2009 customers, we recommend a migration approach. DMT tool from Microsoft is available for AX 2009 customers to help migrating the master data and the open transactions from AX 2009. It is recommended to rewrite the AX 2009 code as there has been a significant amount of platform changes between AX 2009 and D365. Let's look into the execute phase of the project. The middle section in the slide, right? The tool that was used for the estimation is in the LCS portal will also be used for the actual code upgrade too. The LCS portal will help you with a guided code upgrade experience. The upgraded code will be automatically uploaded to the Azure DevOps for further processing to the developers. Developers should also be using the same DevOps for developing new code in D365. Code upgrade should be performed at one layer at a time. It is a best practice to start from the lowermost layer of the code and then move up in layers. At this stage, you should also be developing and remapping any new extensions in D365, which were identified in the fit gap analysis of the project. Once you have completed the code upgrade for all the layers and also use the upgraded version of the ISVs, you are now ready to move to data upgrade. Data upgrade can be started only after the code upgrade is completely finished. Microsoft releases data upgrade packages in the LCS, which can be used for the upgrade of AX 2012 data to D365. ISVs should be providing the data upgrade packages when you upgrade the ISV code base too. Please don't be surprised if you run into issues in the data upgrade process in your dev. This is your chance to find out the issues and work on resolutions required. Please practice the data upgrade process a few times before executing them in the production environment. The data upgrade is also available through the self-service option in the LCS portal for your sandbox and test environments. When the data upgrade is ready, you can then practice the same in your sandbox environment for further testing of the data. I think this concludes your execute phase of the project. Let's look into what happens in the validate phase. It is very important you perform the functional testing, document the complete cutover plan, test the cutover plan, and finally do the performance testing in the test environment before moving towards the production upgrade process. Technologies have changed, processes might have changed due to changes in the versions. The steps to integrate with external applications have changed. Identify the peak load to the system and always test for the maximum volume, and along with the average expected use of the system. Work on the results of performance testing and optimize your code. Do not assume any simple step in the business process. Every step is important. For example, this is from one of my implementations on an upgrade customer. While delivering the items from a sales order, a packing slip should be printed. While testing the application, the customer tested to find out if the packing slip is being printed. The result was positive as the customer tried to print one packing slip. In real life scenario, the customer had multiple locations in different cities and they had to direct prints to specific printers in each of the locations. We have a feature called document routing agent in D365, which takes care of the printing execution or the packing slip print. You should implement the optimum number of document routing agents to handle the expected load. The customer went live with testing one printout and in real life system did not handle the load. So it is important to perform load testing, and this is just not for your code optimization, but also for your process optimization. Now let's look into what happens in the lift and shift of the code. Let's understand what happens with the lift and shift versus reimplementation or a partial reimplementation. Lift and shift is generally a quick and easy way to eliminate the excessive overhead cost of maintaining on-prem servers. By simply moving applications into cloud, organizations can continue to operate with minimal service interruptions and avoid high potential cost of rebuilding or redesigning their systems. In some cases, however, this also means that legacy business applications may not be optimized to take advantage of the new cloud technologies, which can result in application redesign or maybe a reimplementation of a certain feature, which is out of scope for the lift and shift approach. For simpler implementations, lift and shift can be a good fit when the implementation had little to no integrations and the customer is completely satisfied with their current on-prem solution. Let's now move on to the why migrate section. I think every customer has this question in mind. They've already invested in their current on-prem solution, and the infrastructure required to run the on-prem solution is also in place. The next few slides will help us answer and clarify these questions. We have seen multiple businesses thrive and significantly improve their processes by moving their ERP to cloud with Dynamics 365. Businesses have become proactive with connected and holistic view of data, allowing them to deliver outcomes and identify opportunities. We see a shift to enable actions that is proactive, 360 views, holistic views of data, connected data across businesses, enabling actionable insights that deliver better outcomes. In our digital economy, businesses must adapt and adjust faster. The practical outcomes experienced by companies moving to cloud are increased revenue, better cost management, trust and security for mission-critical applications. Improved nimbleness. Businesses need to have solutions that are flexible and agile to meet ever-changing business needs and stay competitive. Deeper insights and intelligence. Organizations require real-time, end-to-end business intelligence to proactively manage their cloud businesses and respond to customer demands. Let's look into the measures that showcase the business value of the cloud solution. Let's talk a little bit about the Dynamics Cloud. I think the first thing to know what's wrong with your traditional on-prem solution is that the main challenge with the traditional ERP system is that they are siloed and glued. They do not work with today's digital economy. The ability for the businesses to survive and thrive needs an ERP system that is modern, unified, adaptable, and intelligent. But if you think about a traditional ERP, they are typically isolated from your organizational applications, maybe reporting applications or your CRM systems. Running an ERP system is not a simple process. On-prem ERP applications are complex and expensive to deploy. You must think about the hardware you must build before you start the implementation or installation. And also, it is difficult to update or maintain ERP systems. Each upgrade between releases costs money and time. Every business wants to maximize their revenue, and they also want to minimize their cost. If you think about the trust and security, it's the top of mind for all mission-critical applications. Let's look into the total ownership cost. Moving to cloud marginally reduces the total cost of ownership. How do we reduce, and in what areas do we reduce? We can consolidate the on-prem licensing and support cost. Organizations with global operations and multiple on-prem Dynamics implementations reported consolidated savings upwards of 20% or more. You could also avoid the on-prem infrastructure cost. Companies could claim the investments on infrastructure is already done, but these are not one-time investments. Infrastructure needs to be refreshed periodically, like the server hardware, networking hardware, and not to mention the software cost for each of the components involved in the infrastructure. On top of the server cost, the company should also factor the maintenance of these servers with periodical patch updates and hardware admin cost that comes along with the infrastructure. With cloud, everyone says that we could save cost, but let's detail the areas through which we could reduce the cost. Look at the picture. When it comes to the total cost of ownership, companies with on-prem solutions only think about the monthly subscription cost that comes with a cloud solution, whereas the on-prem investments, there are many other costs associated with it. The few costs that comes along with the on-prem solutions are software licensing cost, infrastructure cost, personnel that take care of the servers, maintenance and upgrades. There are many ongoing activities that could be avoided in an on-prem solution, like applying updates, performance tuning, system downtimes, integrations, network upgrades, security upgrades, and database upgrades. Every on-prem customer would have planned for a disaster recovery scenario, but in real world, how many of them would have actually practiced a disaster recovery step? Many times, the step for disaster recovery are only looked at when the systems actually go down. In case of cloud, the customer pays a subscription fees that takes care of all the hidden cost that comes from an on-prem solution. Apart from the cost of ownership, the customers should also consider the support end date for the on-prem solutions. Tom, yeah, the next slide, please. Due to the push towards the future, we are announcing the end of service for our legacy AX products on April 2022. We know that you are at the crossroads, but we are optimistic that migrating to D365 will not only utilize all the great benefits we experience with our AX legacy product, but also you will enjoy a new world of possibilities with real-time data and increased security. After April 2022, AX 2009, AX 2012, and AX 2012 R2 will lose support, will lose patches, regulatory updates, security updates, and you run into risk of compliance. Microsoft will continue making security hotfixes and regulatory updates for Dynamics AX 2012 R3 customers throughout the extended support period ending on January 10, 2023. Right. Let's look at the second pillar in the business value of an online system. The time and effort that is used to maintain an on-prem solution can now be focused on enhancing the productivity of the company. Let's look at Dynamics 365, how it helps in improving the operational efficiency. Let's go through a few examples. In the current AX 2012 system, if you want to add a workflow to an environment or to a business process, it requires a developer's involvement. You develop code, you create objects for a workflow, and once it is all done, you build it and then you deploy it to a test environment, testing is done, and then finally to a production. And all these process involves a developer's involvement, a build manager, and then the movement to the production environment. Whereas in D365, you could do all this outside through Power Automate and then integrate Power Automate into D365. And the Power Automate is a no code environment where a business user can create workflows and then associate that with a business process within D365. And all this can be done with no developers, AX developers involvement too. And also, let's take an example of a reporting scenario. In AX 2012 customer, how many times we could have developed massive reports that consume the data from AX 2012 database and then produces a beautiful report. The report developer focuses on the outcome of the report. but not worried about the performance or anything else. Many times what happens is that a business user would have run a report, an SSRS report outside of Dynamics, which consumes the Dynamics data, and that would have brought down the system. So it is always not a recommended practice to write direct SSRS report in AX 2012, but many customers would have done it. So to avoid such scenarios, we have a feature called BYOD, or we can also move our data to Azure Data Lake. So now you can still write all your complex or beautiful SSRS reports by not pointing to Dynamics AX and my database, but to the BYOD database or the Azure Data Lake. And that is one of the examples. Let's look at another example. Today, if there is a performance issue in AX 2012, you are responsible, as because this is an on-prem solution, for you to run statistics update, run index maintenance jobs, take proper database backups, and all such. Whereas in D365, the system automatically looks in for any slow running queries, and whenever there is an opportunity to improve the performance by updating the statistics, the system does it on its own. And also the database backups and disaster recovery is completely owned by the cloud solution, and the customers do not have to worry about it. Let's also take another example. In an on-prem solution, many times customers just don't run ERP. They also run CRM applications. CRM applications, even if you have a Dynamics application, integrating Dynamics CRM and AX 2012 was a massive challenge. You had to maintain multiple data management features and multiple data management packages to interact the data between CRM and AX. Whereas in D365, we have a net new capability called dual write. Dual write can synchronously maintain the data between AX and D365 and CRM without any manual interruption. There is a very slight, a little notable change of a delay in the data between the CRM system and AX system, whereas all your data maintenance is all handled by the dual write itself. How many times we have seen that running an MRP in an on-prem solution has brought down the system and the users are not able to use till the MRP is completed. So many times customers wait till the end of the day to run an MRP. In D365, we have a new feature called a planning optimization, where the entire MRP is being run externally, and whenever the process finishes, the data is written into Dynamics. Because we were able to do this, we were able to reduce the resources that were consumed in D365, and the customers were able to run their MRP anytime during the day. These are a few examples that we undergo today in our on-prem systems, which can be easily handled in D365. Right. Let's now look into the third pillar of the business value. Over to you, Chad.
Thanks, Arun. So you can see some of the great value add when you make this move to cloud. And when we talk about this, how do you accelerate the time to value? There's a couple of things there on that slide that I want to talk about, which is AX 2012 has a direct path to cloud, and there has been investment from the migration tools perspective. So the first step is conducting that SMA to give you that individualized evaluation and understand what your journey is. As Arun said in the beginning, lift and shift is the fastest path to the cloud to derive some of those benefits, but it is simply one of the first steps. In order to get to some of the Power Platform and the other enhancements that Arun just spoke to, you're going to want to take it to the next step for even more efficiency and higher benefits. So how do you do that? What we found is in order to migrate with confidence, you need to have the right partner. And here are a few of the things that we've heard other clients ask and things that we've learned from this SMA process around finding the right partner and making sure that you have who you need. The first is around the migration capabilities. And this is to ask in not just have you, but what is the proven experience with migration and their current efforts regarding migrations? What have they done and how successful has it been? Another thing is you can have a partner that has proven it in the past, but they're booked up. Things are getting very busy. We see more and more activity and more clients looking to move to the Dynamics 365. So the question then becomes, what about your capacity? What about the timing for our organization? And when can we move? Does that match up with the capacity you have available so that we can make this all work together? And then the last thing is the post-live support. This isn't just to migrate and done and walk away. You want that partner that's going to be there, that understands your business, that will walk you through the full duration and clarify with you, what do you require from an organization standpoint after you've moved to Dynamics 365, and what's going to be the most important thing for your company. So when you ask these questions, there's multiple questions, but in these three categories, your capabilities, your capacity and timing for my migration, and what post-life support do you have that my organization needs, you're going to be able to find that partner that can walk you through this journey and make it very successful for you. I think with the next slide, we talk with Arun about getting started.
Yeah. So how do we get started? Let's join the Dynamics migration community, and then in the Dynamics migration community, we will be able to help you answer any questions and any questions that comes up during the migration process. And also, we have there has been a lot of discussion already on the Dynamics migration community about the various steps that has been taken and the issues that we have faced and what requires and how do we mitigate those issues in the Dynamics migration community. Ask your partner for any migration questions, and we are also here to help you out with any questions that comes up with the migration. Are there any questions, team? We are here to answer the questions.
Yeah, so with that, we'll take some of your questions. So if you I know that folks have been putting them in the chat as we've been going along, but if you have any immediate questions based on what Arun and Chad shared, we're happy to answer them now.
I just want to read one of the questions that came up. Is it a good approach to upgrade Dynamics AX 2012 into a two-step upgrade process? First to on-prem and then to a cloud solution. I think we would recommend you to move from an on-prem AX 2012 R3 to directly to cloud. You do not need to do a double hop. You can directly move, and all our data upgrade process as well as the code upgrade process will help you to make that move from on-prem to cloud directly. And for the data upgrade, you can have all your data that you had in your AX 2012 in D365 upgraded using the data packages that we have. So is there a standard approach for converting or migrating the customizations, right? So what happens is like the tool that we use in the SMA upgrade process, SMA assessment, right? The standard migration assessment is the same tool that also helps us to do the actual upgrade itself. When you upload your model store, AX2012 model store, and run the upgrade process, the tool converts your AX2012 objects into Dynamics 365 artifacts. And those artifacts, mostly whichever artifacts were able to be upgraded, will be upgraded automatically, and the objects which needs your attention will be highlighted, and a specific D365 solution will be created so that you just have to go into those solutions, look into those objects which needs your attention, fix, and then move forward. The only area where you'll have to invest your time would be the integrations. The platform has changed drastically between AX 2012 to D365. So definitely we will ask you to look into every integration aspects that you had, and then make use of the latest and most standardized features of data entities in D365, and then work on them.
Arun and Chad, here another one, and I know that Pavel has answered a bit. Maybe we can provide a little more detail. Will the data migration tool include transactional level data or only master level data?
I can take that question, Tom. The data upgrade tool includes the transaction data too. The only caution that I would give is the size of the database. If the size of the database is too big, we would recommend you to move only the opening balances and the masters from AX 2012 to D365, and then have your AX 2012 database move into our Azure Cloud Data Lake. The Azure Data Lake, as Chad has mentioned, Azure Data Lake is a very economical solution to retain or archive any of your AX 2012 data and then reference it whenever it is required. So the tool itself, to answer your question, will help you transfer the transaction data to along with the master, but definitely keep in mind that only do this when your database size is not too big.
And here's another one. I'm going to rephrase it slightly, but when should you consider a re-implementation instead of a migration? How do you think about that, re-implementation versus migration?
Right. There are multiple scenarios in which you will go for a re-implementation. Let's say in an implementation you had multiple ISVs or a few ISVs which were completely created in AX 2012, and you do not have an option for that ISV to be upgraded to D365. They do not have an upgraded version for Dynamics. That is one area where you would have think about re-implementation. Or if you would have done a lot of customizations that is not feasible in D365. The features in AX 2012 were degraded or were not available in D365 in those scenarios. And the very common scenario when we would recommend a re-implementation for the code would be for an AX 2009 customer. The AX 2009 has been a very old ERP system, and there has been a leaps and bounds of changes in platform, in the code, and also the integration technologies and other areas, right? So in case of AX 2009 customers, we recommend a re-implementation of the code, but the data to help you with the data migration, we have a tool called DMT tool, which helps you transfer all your master data as well as your opening transactions from AX 2009 to D365.
Here's another one. When you have tens of companies from different business units, do you recommend migrating them all at once or individually?
When it comes to multiple companies, I would assume there would have been multiple legal entities. So even though they are different legal entities, they would have all been in one AX instance. So I would recommend to move all the entities, all the legal entities in one shot to D365 if the business process among all the legal entities are pretty similar, and if it is in one instance scenario.
Here's one on customization. Essentially, how do you handle a migration, or how should we think about migration when the application is heavily customized?
Okay. So let's say if all the customizations are new objects, right? So the new object customization is pretty straightforward because you're not interrupting with any of your standard AX code, or you can move your customized object to D365 with minimal efforts. But whereas if we have a lot of changes or customizations on standard products or standard objects, in those scenarios, you will have to look at options to see if your customizations that you have made today to standard objects have already been implemented by a standard object in D365. An example is that, let's say many customers had a positive pay feature where they had developed a customization to handle the positive pay. Whereas in D365, it is an out-of-the-box feature. In those scenarios, rather than bringing in the customization, I would look into mapping into the standard product itself. So it depends on case-to-case basis on how you move the customizations from AX 2012 to D365. But if it is a completely custom object catering to your custom process, it is easy. And for any standard objects that you have customized, look into ways where you can actually convert that customization into extension. Extension is a new way of changing code in Dynamics, and extension helps you achieve whatever you are able to achieve in AX 2012, but in a different way. There is a lot of advantage for having extensions over the customizations. Because we are in extension model, getting any hotfix or any other updates can be handled easily because we are not customizing, and it's pretty much through the extension model itself. And chat, please, if I have missed any points, please add here.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you know, one of the questions earlier was when should we think about upgrading versus a reimplementation? And I think it does come down partly. You heard some really good answers from Arun there. And one of the things that you heard was, particularly in AX 2009, it probably should be a reimplementation because of all the functionality that's been added. That's one thing to look at, even if you're on a newer version of AX, as you look at Dynamics 365, the amount of new functionality there versus what you may have had to customize in the past could be one of the key drivers for you to say, I'm going to go with a standard Dynamics 365 implementation with maybe 1/3 of the customization I had before, and I want to use the customization in the new architecture so that I can stay current on the Dynamics 365 releases, because the team does continue to add huge amounts of functionality each release cycle. So that's one of the areas that we've seen a lot of clients look at, is what's now standard that I can do away with some of the customizations that cost me time and money to maintain.
Here's another anonymous one. In terms of thinking about migrating both your AX and CRM, should you keep the reimplementations or the migrations separate? Should you do them separately versus at the same time? I believe that's what they're asking in the question.
Let me start with, and Chad, you can add if I miss any points here. The question I think is like, what do we have to migrate or upgrade both CRM and AX solution at the same time? It is not needed that you have to do both at the same time. You can bring up one system first and then move on to another system. So you can bring up, let's say, for example, you can upgrade AX 2012 first to D365, and once you are done, you can look into CRM and then move up to D365 for CE, right? Or you can do the other way around also, bring up CE first and then AX later. And once both the systems are up in the cloud in D365, then you can use the dual write feature that I used in the presentation to integrate the D365 F&O or finance and supply chain and the CRM, and the data can be transferred with each other.
And to add to that, It really is client preference. The most common is to take one at a time because of what Arun just described, where the dual write capability is available, so you can focus your attention on perhaps F&O and then focus on CE or vice versa. And so we do find as working with clients, most clients choose to do them back to back, not at the same time, but it is a client preference and depending on what you want to do as for your organization.
Here's another one in terms of a customer has gone through the SMA, but due to customizations within their application, they're looking for additional help from Microsoft in terms of what are the other resources available to them that can help them migrate from on-premise to the cloud. Arun, Chad, any thoughts on those resources around Fast Track or potential other consulting or assessment services?
I can chime in here, Tom. We have the Fast Track Tech Talks. There are a number of tech talks available from the Fast Track community, from our Fast Track group, where they have detailed the process of upgrade in detail. And also, we have a Microsoft Learn page, which takes you through a step-by-step process in the upgrade, as well as we have the docs page, which gives you the specific upgrade process from AX 2012 to D365. And on top of all this, if you have more questions, definitely feel free to post in the migration community, and we should be able to answer there. And also, there is the videos and the LCS tool. So in AX 2012, customers had to deal more with the application, whereas we have a portal right now, which actually takes you through this step-by-step process of upgrade to in LCS portal.
And then there are several questions around database or data migration, and essentially, are there limitations or thresholds on the amount of data or the size that can be migrated, the amount of data that can be migrated?
Okay. So what I would have as a recommendation is that, so with the Dynamics 365, we have a base level of allocation of space in the cloud for every implementation. And that depends on the number of users you have in the organization. So it is always a better idea to stay within the allocation if possible, right? And also bringing in huge amount of historical data is not good with perspective to the performance too. We recommend you to clean up any of the old data that is possible. And also in AX 2012, if possible, you can archive the data that you do not want to bring into D365. And also, if you want to have the AX 2012 data as a reference, it is recommended that you move your archive, move your AX 2012 data to Azure Data Lake. Keep that database there for any references or for any reporting scenarios, and then move your latest data into AX into D365. Though the answer is not straightforward for every customer, I will try to see like whatever opportunities that you can take to reduce the amount of data that you bring into D365 if possible, so that you have a lot of room to grow in Dynamics Cloud.
And I think we have probably time for one more. Here's another one on customizations. Is it a viable option to move all customizations in the model store, migrate data, and configure to get a working D365 solution? Where can you then do process redesign and take out customizations you don't want directly from D365?
I can take that, Chad, please add if I'm missing any points here. So as I told you, the LCS portal can be used for you to upgrade all your code from all your layers from AX 2012 to D365. And also the data upgrade packages available can be used to upgrade the data. So you can do all this and then move your data to one of the dev machines or a test machine. And in parallel to a upgraded environment, we also recommend you to implement a standard or a demo environment of D365 with no customizations, and then compare the customizations that you have upgraded from AX 2012 to D365 to see if you actually need that customization, or can that be customization be replaced with a standard feature in D365. So I think your fit gap analysis is very important, so that you know what are the fits and what are the gaps, and how do you bring in and what do you bring in, what kind of customizations you bring in. And then you compare your customized D365 environment with the standard to see like what are the opportunities for you to move more to standard. Chad, please add if I have missed any points here.
No, I think, from a technical aspect, and what Arun answered is absolutely correct. From a strategic aspect, again, going back to when you make the move to cloud, when you make the move to Dynamics 365, one of the great advantages that you have an opportunity to see is to keep up with the updates. Again, Microsoft is 2 times a year at a minimum putting feature functionality into these applications, into every one of the applications. And so the less that you have customizations, the more that you're able to use the standard functionality, the faster you'll be able to adapt and adopt those updated features from Microsoft, which is going to really help drive your organization forward. And so, yes, it's possible. Should you do it is the question you should ask yourself as an organization. And how do you strategically decide to reduce the number of customizations you have so you can take advantage of the cadence and the functionality coming out for Dynamics 365?
Great. Thanks so much. So I think that's probably all the questions we have time for today. I know that there are a number that we probably didn't get to, and we will follow up with you, as we can. I will say, if you have further questions, or, after you think about this, our conversation here, or maybe you watch the recording on demand, please visit I put back up this slide. Please visit the community, the Dynamics 365 migration community, where you can ask your questions there, and we'll answer them in time. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. We do have in the Q&A box, there is a survey based on today's webinar. So please fill that out, and we will take your answers and try to adjust for our next event and future events. So thank you so much for joining us today.